Okay, now, there is no reason for any of us not to at least be able to do part of every problem, okay? Because it's exactly like these. So here we go. Number 1 talks about domains. What are the 2 things I have to be on the lookout for when I do domains?
Hold on.
The denominator.
The denominator can't be 0. So I am looking at problems A, B, C, and D. A has a denominator. So what do I know about X? X cannot equal 6. Now, D has a denominator. What do I know about that? X cannot equal -7. If there is a denominator, you can't have a 0 down there. So X cannot be whatever would make it 0. All right? Those are the only 2 problems with denominators. All right. What else do I worry about with radicals? Or with radicals. When I do domain, I worry about radicals, right? And what do I worry about when I worry about radicals? Whatever's underneath has to be greater than or equal to 0. So A has a radical. That means X minus 4 has to be greater than or equal to 0. Which means X has to be greater than or equal to 4. A has 2 answers. Why does A have 2 answers? Because it has a radical and a denominator. Now, C has a radical. So X plus 5 has to be greater than or equal to 0. So X has to be bigger than or equal to -5. Is everybody with me? Now, what about G? It's all real numbers. Why is it all real numbers? Because it doesn't have a radical and it doesn't have a denominator. Okay? Quincy, we are on practice test 3, honey. It is in your practice test packet. All right, number 2. What? The radical, whatever's under the radical, has to be greater than or equal to 0. Every time, period. It doesn't matter what's under there, it has to be greater than or equal to 0. Subtract 5 from both sides, X is greater than or equal to -5.
So when it's in the square root.
Yes, it has to be greater than or equal to 0. All right, next problem. Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and factor it as I write it. At this point, everybody recognizes we have to factor, right? We should factor if we can. So here we are. My job is to find vertical asymptotes, horizontal asymptotes, and holes. All right? So what can you tell me about this problem? What? Be careful. Take a look at the original problem, Colleen. What do you notice about the powers in the problem?
One's X squared.
They don't match. Okay? They don't match. So what do we do if they don't match? Well, we check to see which one's bigger. If the one on the bottom is bigger, which is what we have here, then the asymptote is 0. So your asymptote horizontal is y equals 0. And I've been telling you all along, if you don't put a letter here, you're going to lose half a point. Make sure you say y equals. All right, what about vertical asymptotes or holes? No holes, Asia. And why are there no holes? Let's write the word none. Why are there no holes? because I didn't do this.
Cancel.
Vertical asymptotes. There's two. And where are they? X equals 4, X equals -1. Vertical asymptotes happen when the denominator is 0. B, problem B. How are you going to start it? How are we going to start it? We're going to factor, right? So how does the top factor? Be careful. Plus 3 plus 2 on top. How about the bottom? -5 plus 3, yep. Now, some of you may take a little longer than that to factor, and that's fine. Just take your time, get the factors correct. They're really important. Joseph James, you paying attention?
Yeah.
What do you notice about this problem? We are going to be able to cancel. So I am left with this. I'm going to go ahead and write down what I'm left with. That becomes my new problem. Right? Now, vertical asymptotes, horizontal asymptotes, holes. We canceled, didn't we? So we're going to have a hole. Where is that hole going to be? Where x is -3, the x coordinate's -3, because that's what we canceled out. Now how do I get the y? I plug it in right here, in your new problem. So if I plug in -3, I'll get -1 over -8, or 1/8. So there's my hole. Notice there's no graph on here. You're not going to be graphing it. If you did want to graph it, you just put an open dot there, right? It's a hole. Now, look right here. Do we have any vertical or horizontal asymptotes? Y equals 1. Very good. The powers match, gang. And when they match, you just put them over each other, and that fraction is the answer. X over x is 1. Is there a vertical asymptote? X equals 5. Because what happens if x is 5? The denominator would be 0, and that is not good. I'm going to go ahead and factor this as I copy it. Is everybody okay seeing the differences of squares there on the top and the bottom?
Yes.
All right, so vertical, nothing cancels. What does that tell me, that nothing cancels? No hole. Right, none. None. Are there any vertical asymptotes or horizontal asymptotes? Yes. What? Y equals 1 is my horizontal. Y. Look at the problem on the paper. Do the powers match? X squared over x squared. 1. How about vertical asymptotes? X equals 1, x equals -1. There are two things that make the denominator 0. All right, 2 parts down, 3 to go. Now we're going to do a little sketching. So the first thing we're going to sketch is our piecewise. Right? Alright, so here we go. What shape do I have there on top? A parabola. I'm going to sketch in my parabola. There we go. There's my parabola. Now, do I want the whole parabola?
No.
I never want the whole parabola. I want a piecewise function. I want a piece of it. And I want the piece of it starting where x is -2. So that would be right here. Miss Ford, how'd you know to put that point there? Because it says x is -2. Here's where x is -2, so there's my point. Now, that point needs to be colored in. And then I need to erase something. I want to erase this part because the problem tells me to keep the greater than part. That's the right part. Quincy, take a picture of somebody so you can follow along. Okay. Now, what about this? What's this part? What's this? That's a line. Now, you can either do it with slope and intercept, or you can remember, everybody knows what that looks like, right? X is the identity line. What does subtracting 1 do to it? Move it down 1. So if that's easier for you to graph that way, that's fine. Here it is. Now again, we don't want the whole thing, so here's where x is -2. There's my dot. That's where x is -2, right there. And this time, I want to keep the left part and get rid of the right part. Remember, you are never going to keep both rights or both lefts. In one of them, you'll erase the right, and in the other one, you'll erase the left. Always, 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 always. Okay? Now, the rest of the graphs will go easier. You won't have to spend so much time on the rest of them. What shape do I have here?
Parabola.
Parabola is a squared. It's a parabola. What do I know about my parabola? It's been moved
Down 1.
Right.
1 to the right and
Two up.
2 up. So instead of being vertex at the origin, like it normally would be, it's moved right 1 and up 2. So my vertex, here's my parabola, my vertex is at 1, 2. Right 1, up 2. Now, this is a question that anybody that says to me, I don't understand, I'm going to beat you off. Because there is nothing to understand here. These are rules we memorize. We memorize that x squared is a parabola. And we memorize that when you put a number inside with the x, it's sideways opposite. And when you put it outside, it's up and down that number. All right. What's the shape of letter C? Shape of letter C.
It's a V.
It's a V. And the normal V would be coming out right here, right? But not this one. What's happened to this V?
Left 1.
Left 1,
Up 1.
up 1. So this V, left 1, up 1, looks like this. All right, D. What's this look like? That's right. Thank you, Deshanti. Looks like this. This is an asymptote across here, and this is the number, or the point 0, 1. That is called your exponential. Now, what happens when I add 2 to it? I haven't done that yet. This is the basic curve. What happens when I add 2 to it? It goes up 2. So see that point that's at 0, 1? It's now going to be at 0, 3. And this asymptote that was at 0 is now going to be up here at 2. Everything got picked up 2 units, including the asymptote. All the points, all the asymptotes, everything gets lifted up 2 units. So the answer is the green one. If you want to bring a colored pencil for your test, so you can do this kind of thing, that's fine. Or you can just erase. Here's my cosine. This is not the answer. This is the regular cosine curve. Now notice it's bouncing back and forth between -1 and 1, right? That's what the basic curve does. What am I doing to it?
This is 4.
Yeah.
Is Raven farthing in the room?
She is. Yes?
Okay, can you please send us to the front office?
Yep.
Thank you.
Leave your stuff here, Raven. What? Oh, okay. All right. Okay, now we're going to do what to it, did we say? I got
Move down.
Move it down 2. So everything in the picture is going to come down 2. So kids, that means instead of bouncing back and forth between -1 and 1, it's going to be bouncing back and forth between -3 and -1. Everything got moved down. So it's going to look like this.
That one's harder.
So everything got moved down 2 units.
On the test, are you going to want us to like really label
Well, I'm not going to make you label the x-axis, but you got to label these, yeah. Yep, these need to be labeled. Because that's a vertical shift. And then one more. Couple of things happening in this problem. You remember what your square root looks like? Right? This is your square root right here. That's it. Now, what happened here? Let's do one step at a time. What happened here? No. 2 units to the right. So this is what it's going to look like. Now wait, I'm not done yet. Now I got a negative out in front. That's going to tip it upside down. So instead of being a parabola going like this, it's going to be a parabola going like that. There is your answer. It's upside down. It's shifted over 2 and upside down. Okay? Number 4. All right, we've got these functions. And now we're going to do something with them. So what do I do with letter A? Multiply 2x squared times negative 3x plus 1, which would be what? Distribute here, what do you get? Negative 6x cubed plus 2x squared? Alright, and then D. Q of P of X. Now what does that mean? Q of P of X.
Take the P and plug it in for P.
Exactly. Take P, which is 2x squared, and plug it into Q. So we'll have negative 3 times 2x squared plus 1, which is negative 6x squared plus 1. All right, what about C?
Plus negative 1 into Q.
We need to put 2 into P and negative 1 into Q, right?
Yep.
So here we go. P of 2. Put 2 into P. Now be careful. What do I do first?
2 squared.
Exactly. PEMDAS. Exponents come first. So that's 4 times 2, that's 8. And then Q of negative 1 would be 3 plus 1, 4. And what am I supposed to do with those two numbers according to the problem? Add them. So the answer is 12. P of Q of 0. All right, how do I start there? What do I do first?
Plug 0 into
Plug 0 in for the X of Q.
Exactly. Plug 0 in for the X's in Q. So that'll be negative 3 times 0 plus 1. So the answer to this part is 1. This is 1. Katie, thank you.
Yeah. Is that where I'm supposed to put it?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Is there any bread left? You want a piece of banana bread since you were so kind to come in?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, so then I'm going to take that 1, and plug it into P, and I end up with what?
2.
2. So the answer to the problem is 2. We're almost done. Deshanti? Number 5. Find the implicit functions for this, all right? What does that mean? What am I supposed to do? Get y by itself. So let's start with this. I'll subtract x squared from both sides. I move the x squared over, becomes negative. Now what? Be careful, you have to do something else. Divide by negative 1. Right? And then, last step, square root. And when you square root, you plus or minus. Are we going to simplify this right here? No, you can't. There's nothing to do. It will be illegal. Stop right here. This is the answer. Now, why are there 2 answer blanks there? Yes. So one of the answers is positive square root x squared minus 25, and the other one is negative square root x squared minus 25. Now, you say, Miss Ford, why didn't you just put one answer line? Because I'm hoping if I put 2, you will remember the plus or minus.
Is it okay if we just write plus or minus?
Yes,
I tend to do that.
you're lazy as can be. Now, number 6. Tricky, tricky, tricky. Do you understand what this problem is asking you to do? A minute ago, well, I erased it, but a minute ago we did a problem like problem number 4B, and we took the 2 little functions, plugged one into the other, and got an answer, right? Now, this is the backwards of that. This is the answer. What were the 2 little functions that got put together to give you this? Well, it's not as hard as you might think.
3 and x minus 1.
You are close. You are very close. If you look carefully at this function, you guys, there are 2 things that have to happen. Like if you wanted to put in a 10, if you want to put 10 in, what are the 2 things that are going to happen? First, that 10 is going to get multiplied by 3, and then you're going to subtract 7. So the 2 operations are multiply by 3 and subtract 7. That means that your 2 functions are 3x and x minus 7. Those are the 2 functions that are going to go together to make this. Trust me, that's what they are. Now what you have to do is get them in the right order. When we say m of n of x, which function comes first, m or n? N. N goes into m, right? So n must be the first operation. So n must be 3x. And the second operation is subtract 7. Now, when you write these functions, it's always x. Don't put anything else, it's always x. Now, there's plenty of room there. Let's do one more of those, and then I will answer whatever questions you have in our remaining 10 minutes or so. All right, let's try this one.
Do we have a test Wednesday?
Test is next time I see you, which is Wednesday. So P of Q of x is x minus 3 over 10. X plus 3 over 10. Tell me what P and Q are.
P's and Q's.
Now, tell me what happens in this problem if I put a number in, like -6. If I put -6 in here, what do I do to that number first? Add 3. So I need a function that adds 3 first. And then I need a function that divides by 10. So those 2 functions would be x plus 3 adds 3, and x divided by 10 divides by 10. Now what order do I need them in? Which has to come first? Adding 3. So that's going to be function Q. And then P will be the second step, which is divide by 10. All right, now you got 3 practice tests. We have 10 minutes. So tell me what we need to practice more of. What on here, and I'll just make up a couple problems and we'll practice them. What do we still need a little bit of practice on?
Are we turning in practice one of these?
You don't have to turn them in, we already did them in class together.
I was just wondering why you had on an extra sheet.
Oh, because it wasn't room on it. Robbie?
You do a problem with horizontal, vertical.
All right, so we're gonna do a problem where we have to find the horizontal asymptotes, the vertical asymptotes, and the holes. So let's take a look at an equation. Okay, here we go. Here is our problem. Our job is to identify vertical asymptotes, horizontal asymptotes, and holes if we have any. All right. Hannah, how do I start? Factor everything. I'm going to factor everything. So Hannah, how does the top factor? Take out the 2. Let me catch up, all right? And then what do you notice after I take out the 2? What's this called? That's called the difference of squares. And how does the difference of squares factor? X. Yep. X plus 2, X minus 2. By the way, do not forget to carry that 2 along. He's part of it. You got to keep him as you go. All right, how does the bottom factor, Daisy? 6 and 2, so it's going to be X minus 6, X plus 2. Everybody okay? Now what do you notice?
You can cancel.
We can cancel. So
We have a hole.
2 X minus 2's over X minus 6.
Correct.
Now, because we canceled,
To have a hole.
we're going to have a hole. And the hole is going to be at the opposite of whatever canceled out. So it's
Negative
going to be
2.
at negative 2.
Plug it in.
Now I will take that negative 2 and plug it back into my problem. 2 times negative 4 over negative 2 minus 6. So that's negative 8 over negative 8, which is 1. So my hole is at negative 2 comma 1. Any vertical or horizontal asymptotes? Look here. This is our new problem here, a canceled problem.
Vertical asymptote would be 6.
Vertical asymptote at x equals 6.
Horizontal.
Because vertical asymptotes happen where the denominator is 0. Marley?
I'm just starting.
Horizontal asymptote would be where?
2.
Y equals 2. The powers match. No matter where you look, the powers match. And we have 2x over x or 2x squared over x squared. So your horizontal asymptote is y equals 2. All right, anybody else have a type of problem that we need to take a look at? I'm not going to see, next time I see you, I'm going to hand you a test. So let's get these questions answered. All right, let's just do some problems. I'll make them up, then we'll see how you do.
Let's just give us a test now.
Give it to you right now.
Yeah, I'll take it.
You take it in 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe some of you can. I don't know. Answer it. Let's see how many can get it right. Here we go.
So is this the problem that we did on the back?
No. This says find P of B of 1.
All
How
right.
do we find P of B of 1? Yes, Samantha.
Do you want me to say the answer?
Yep.
Is it 28?
She thinks the answer is 28. Do I have any yays or nays on that? Yays.
Yeah,
Yays,
yeah.
absolutely. B of 1 is 8. And when you plug that 8 in here, you get 28. Perfect. All right, let's try this one. Find the domain. Find the domain. What is the domain?
X can't equal 7.
Come on, write it down.
X can't equal
Or
7.
think it in your head. In a minute I'm gonna ask for the answer, not just yet. Alright, Mazzy, what do you think? Domain.
For the radical, I have x is greater than or equal to -2.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bottom one I have is cut equals 7.
Yeas or nays?
Yay.
Yes, she has got it. Very, very good. Okay, implicit functions. For, that's what I heard somebody back there say. Is this right? Yes. You okay with that?
Yeah.
Well, I left them together. There will be 2 answer blanks on the test, but I told Lazy Ethan he could write them together if he wanted to.
Squat.
I don't know if I like that nickname.
Yeah. I feel like I'll mess up if I tried to do that.
It keeps it more straight for me because then.
Yeah.
Oh, we're not keeping it straight.
Whatever,
All right,
whatever.
now-
Whatever works for me.
One more.
One of my.
Last one. Sketch. All right, take a minute on your paper and see if you can sketch this. This is a tricky one.
Yeah, it is.
Paul, you with us?
Alright, so it's a V.
No commentary. No commentary. Sketch it.
Up 3 over 2, flipping upside down.
Up 2.
All right, what shape is it first of all? It is. That's embarrassing. It's a V.
You tried
It's a
it.
V.
I didn't look.
Now, tell me about this V. What is that going to do to it?
Flip it upside
It's going to be
down.
an upside down V that has been shifted to the left 2 and up 3. So you should have a picture on your paper that looks like that. Is that what yours looks like?
It is.
Okay, now listen. Your homework
Ooh.
is to study your
I got you,
little
Miss Ford.
patootie zone. Yep.